Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Money Capital Podcast. My name is Kaya Butelezi, your host, and I'm excited to bring you this special feature on as we commemorate Heritage Month. Today, I'm bringing you a very interesting guest. His name is Gugulethu Xaba. He's a businessman and a serial entrepreneur, a board member on various companies, a member of the BRICS Council, an economic advisor to the late Zulu King, Uzwelithini Zulu, and many other roles. So it's quite an exciting time to have you on our podcast, Nonkosi. If you could just maybe take us on a journey of how you started out, who you are, and and what brings you to our podcast today in terms of the discussion that we're going to be having.
A good morning and good day to yourself and as well as the viewers out there. As you've mentioned, Gugulethu Xaba is my name. I hail from Ingonyama. That's my hometown.
Oh, Salangos.
Salangos, yes. Yeah. Obviously, I'm based now here in Johannesburg with my family for 25 years. So you asked as to who am I, and that's who am I. But in terms of the work that I'm doing, obviously I'm a professional, having come from various backgrounds of professionalism in terms of my work, electrical engineering, quality management, and did a whole lot of things as I was working as an employee in my previous life. But obviously what I'm doing, which is, I think, what we are about here and my passion, is the area of economic upliftment of our people. That is previously marginalized communities that are like you and I. That's the work that I've been doing for the past 20 years. And I started an organization called Amandla Umnotho, which is a platform that's been running for over 15 years and doing different things on that particular platform. But essentially, it is meant to give people information that's about business, that's about economy, that's about economic intelligence, that's about strategies of how to position themselves in the whole ecosystem of economic space.
Excellent.
Yeah. So, again, I always want to say this because it's the model that I designed. We've got a 3-dimensional model. That is Amandla Umnotho, the platform for economic information sharing.
Okay.
And then we've got the Operation Buyelekhaya. Operation Buyelekhaya is the another leg that we formed a few years ago, which has to do with people like you and I who come from rural areas or from townships who are now here in big cities, to say we have to look back to where we come from, to the spaces that brought us up and made us who we are.
Yeah.
And so that we can be able to have a real meaningful contribution in those particular spaces. So it's a movement of all people who wish to go back to their rural areas, to the townships where they come from, and say, we want to plow back, we want to uplift those communities, we want to plow back money as investors, and we want to help lots of people in those particular places. As well as the last one, which is the Rural Chamber of Commerce. That's the baby that is almost new, which is what we are very excited about, because that one has to do with forming creating an ecosystem of economic development and understanding within rural areas. Rural areas are left alone. For a long time now, we've got policies that deal with rural and rurality, but which have not seen the light of day in terms of implementation. You'd see the rural areas just people are doing, it's more on autopilot. It's unlike your big cities. And the development that has to take place there, I don't think anything has happened really in real terms. And then that's why we said, let's come up with this vehicle that is going to package assets that are rural based and make sure that those assets are are really leveraged on, and we get people of rurality from rural areas to own those assets and build our rural towns and cities. Yeah.
Excellent. I think on the question discussion point of rural areas, I think it speaks very, very directly to what we are talking about today, which is kingdoms that make up the South African society.
Yeah.
And by kingdoms, I mean, I think the most popular currently is the Zulu kingdom, but also there is a Pedi kingdom. There's also a Ndebele kingdom, a Makosa kingdom, a Mampondo kingdom. Although that in the South African political landscape, we are not allowed to have kingdoms, but in reality, we have kings, and therefore that basically means that within the republic, we have these kingdoms. So this discussion today, in commemoration of Heritage Month, is to look at the economies of these various kings and kingdoms, and how we can assist and empower those various kingdoms in terms of wealth building as well as economic development. So if you could maybe, if today for today's discussion, we want to zoom into the Zulu kingdom. I just want to, maybe as a disclaimer to my viewers, to say this is not a tribal show, but we are going to be focusing on the Zulu kingdom today. The next one is going to be the Ndebele kingdom, the Pedi kingdom, and so forth and so on. So that I just want to put it out there so that people have an understanding. Okay, let's look at the Zulu kingdom. It's what makes up the industries of that particular nation as well as kingdom, and maybe going back in history, what were the key industries driving that economy before abelungu bafike nje onhle beyikhanyilanga. So yini mhlambe singakhuluma ngayo ukuthi okay, look, this thing called the economy is not new. We had an economy in the past, in the pre-colonial era.
Yeah, maybe to start off with this disclaimer that you've just put forth. Zulu Kingdom is it's not a tribe, it's the nation.
Yes.
Because it's the amalgamation of different tribes. When isilo samabandla inkosi uShaka ilembe leqhamanyama lembe ngokhalipha put together with our ancestors this whole kingdom. You know what happened. It was by force and by and others just coming in to join the system that was working, which looked really to unite African people. And sometimes I always have this imagination where I wonder if he continued to live beyond 40 or thereabout, what would have happened. Probably a movie still needs to come out about the projection of what Shaka would have done to continue with his mission and the vision of uniting Africans. That aside, you are speaking about our kingdoms. I think our kingdoms are very important because, firstly, the political dispensation that we find ourselves in, it was more of a handing over from the kingdom, the kingdoms, after the fights and all sorts of wars of resistance that we experienced, whether with Amaxhosa or Amazulu or Rabapedi or all the African tribes. So it's important that we acknowledge that as much as we are now in this constitutional dispensation,
yes,
our kingdoms are very important.
Absolutely.
And that's why we still have them. We pay allegiance to them because they hold within them the history and the cultural values and all the necessary things that are important, which is what makes us today. You can argue about what that is, but I believe that's not what this is about. The important thing, though, is our kingdoms still are alive, and we ought to recognize them, but they've got to take a leadership role.
Yeah.
For me, that is, I think, what you are sharing and talking about here to say. We've got to find a space where our kings and all the kingdoms really start playing a meaningful role. If we were then to go back to your question of the Zulu kingdom, with the Zulu kingdom is such a very large kingdom. It's known. We're sitting, I think, somewhere at 16 to 18 million Amazulu in South Africa. and two, we've got a brand called Zulu. Yeah, His Majesty Umdlongomane used to say, "Ifa lenu leli." This is your inheritance.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And if you dissect that statement to say "Ifa lenu," that's very deep, because the Zulu kingdom that we are talking about today is a very important brand. And if you're talking brands and marketing, and you were to quantify that as to how much it is,
Yes.
to be very interesting for those that are specialists in that particular space, to know that this brand is known globally. This brand has got lots of people that are part of it, and the language of this particular brand is in itself a currency. It's spoken more than any other language in South Africa.
Does yes, I hear your statement on what Umdlogombane said about ukuthi ifa lethu leli.
Yes.
Kodwa the question is still back ukuthi, does this Zulu nation, what is their role in the economy?
It's a very important question. First of
all,
what
chunk or percentage of, for instance, the economy of KwaZulu-Natal do they participate in or do they own? So these things are very, very critical. We can't just be a well-known brand and then we are all in the movies and stuff like that. But critically, bananda.
That's where I think we have to go to say this brand. First of all, it's not even, in my view, owned by the Zulu people. I've had a lot of discussions with a lot of non-Zulu people who are from other races. Who when they see this brand, they think they wish that we do more for it because it's got a lot of value. I mean, look at what Ushaka Ilembe right now. Say whatever, anything that has got that particular brand in it just flies. I mean, you travel all over the world. Sometimes they think everyone who comes from South Africa and sometimes from Africa is Zulu. That's the ignorance they have, but that's the power of the brand at the same time. So the question is, do Zulus own their economy? With all due respect, because I would say it with a resounding no. Right? We don't own the economy as a Mazulu, right? And you can't maybe start making examples of small pieces of economic ownership here and there and say, Mazulu own this economy. You know, in science, we've got the big R resistance and the small r, which is the negligible one. I would term that's very negligible. Now, if you then are going to talk about what economy am I talking about? Am I going about? As I'm saying, I don't think, again, it's not about Zulus per se, but it's about Africans, people, African natives in South Africa. Which we know very well, that out of the 62 million black people generally make up over 90%. But if you then have to classify them demographically according to blacks or African natives, as well as the whites and Indians, you will then begin to see that, truly speaking, the economy of KwaZulu-Natal, because we're specifically talking about Amazulu, is number one, divided into all sort of like sectors and subsectors of economy. When you look at mining, we've got to classify that and say how many of Amazulu own part of that economy, because Ingonyama Trust, which is the custodian of the Zulu land that is under His Majesty the King Mr. Zulu now, has got 2.96 million hectares of land. That is not just surface land you're talking about. You are talking about all of the economy that land has. That includes your mining, right? That includes your oceans economy, right? Of course, that's water. That is oceans economy, as it were. But it's part of KwaZulu-Natal.
Yeah.
That includes, I mean, that talks to the Imkumbi, that talks to manufacturing, that talks to all other things, including harvesting of fish out there from the ocean. And then you can then go to another sector of economy, which is your manufacturing, and ask yourself, do they own property? You see the development that is happening both between Pietermaritzburg and Durban, just as a way of an example, as well as all the way up to Mpangeni, north of Durban, and the propping up of buildings. And you just ask yourself, how many of Abantu KwaZulu-Natal own that as African natives, right? So, and particularly back to the issue of minerals. I'm emphasizing this point these days that if you go to Richards Bay area in Mpangeni, your big conglomerates, your international companies are mining sand there, extracting minerals
from that sand, yeah. The likes of RBM and so forth.
Rio Tinto and all
Rio,
that.
yes.
You now move to there's a shore where
Melmoth area.
Right. There is iron ore there. The Indian outfit is coming to mine that, right? And it's huge reserves of iron ore. Again, you move all the way up to Nkandla, KwaNongoma. You've got anthracite and you've got coking coal. From Nongoma, where I come from, there's a lot of coking coal. There's a lot of anthracite. You go to Pongola Gold, and you go now to South Coast, you hear that there's a lot of lithium, right? And
gas. And some parts of
much of that land is under Ingonyama Trust, right? Now, when you look at these investors that come and invest, all they come and do, again, I believe now the fight about Ingonyama Trust, political and otherwise, is not necessarily on the surface. It's exactly on what I've just mentioned, and more other minerals that are yet to be announced, because they are.
So it's important as to who then controls Ingonyama Trust, because if you control Ingonyama Trust, you then have access to that kind of wealth. Is that, the theory, or is that what people thinking that is that the case, or?
Yeah,
anyone who controls the Ingonyama Trust is just a ceremonial figure. Look, if you could just unpack that for us and for our viewers.
I think the architect of Ingonyama Trust, Umntwana Wapindangene, did a marvelous job. I know that is...
May his soul rest in peace.
May his soul rest in peace. In ensuring that AmaZulu have their land, right? As to how that land is used and maximized and leveraged on, it's a question of those who live there now. And that includes His Majesty, who currently is the custodian,
the reigning monarch,
as well as all the over 300 of Amakosi, KwaZulu-Natal, to say, how then do all of them in concert work together towards the economic emancipation of their people where they are? Because all of these assets I'm talking about, just as an example, in the mining space, I'm talking about assets that you would find kunenkosi yakwaZondi, nenkosi yakwaMchunu, nenkosi yakwaNxumalo, and then and His Majesty overall reigns on all of that, of those kings. But what becomes important is, if beza kwinkosi yakwaNxumalo, where there is this iron ore, how does inkosi yakwaNxumalo make sure that they discuss with the investors to not just say we are going to create jobs for our people, but we are going to have part ownership of this particular asset at 30-40%, because there's nothing wrong with that, or there's nothing that stops them from having such a negotiation, so that you really then start having people having ownership of that economic activity, and that does what? It creates more other industries, because as soon as that mine, for instance, starts, there's property that has to
Absolutely.
mushroom. There's the financial services that have to come in place. There is supply chain. There is a whole lot of things that are part of the ecosystem that have to support that mine. There's logistics. There's all those types of things.
Yes.
Now, when you have got a king or an inkosi that is well advised and is clued up with what needs to be done in his land, and anybody who then comes and say, we want to invest here, there is going to be a proper negotiating, strategies that will ensue to make sure that they are not played by the investors or taken advantage of by the investors. I really think that the onus is on us as Amazulu. And that's why I said Operation Gugulethu when I started off, because we've got engineers, we've got scientists, we've got actuarials, we've got all sorts of skills that are there. But I don't think these skills are playing a role of linking up to where they come from to be able to advise properly. Amakosagiti or sell.
Do you think that advising is enough? For me, it looks like you need to have a legislative framework that governs another layer of legislation or regulations, under Ingonyama Trust, so that now that you now have the land on your side, but also govern these relationships with investors, because right now it looks like it only depends on that particular inkosi that we go to.
Yeah.
And then that inkosi can be manipulated in so many ways,
Yeah.
at the disadvantage of his people and disadvantage of that inkosi. If you give inkosi 5 million, you buy him a back and that's just about it, and then we can access the land, extract the minerals and make ourselves rich. And then Abantu do not benefit from that.
Disorder is very advantageous for many people. I am really going to speak here not knowing exactly what and how the structures of Ingonyama Trust look, but we're just speaking here. Hopefully they've got that legislative framework that you are talking about. But you are very right. What we need is a proper structured approach that will look into the holistic view of how people need to be empowered and how the land needs to be utilized for the benefit of the people and Amakos.
Yes.
So that's why I'm saying I agree with you there that there needs to be that type of an approach. We have seen Amanyamakhosi in Nigeria, in the Bafokeng.
Yes.
Typical example of the benchmarks and how Amanyamakhosi are doing this. I believe with all the things I've just counted, KwaZulu-Natal is far more richer than quite a lot of some of Amakhosi's lands that maybe we've mentioned.
Yes.
Not to undermine Amakhosi, but this is just to compare in terms of the land size and what is down there in terms of lithium and all the other minerals that we've mentioned. Imagine if we had some sovereign wealth fund that has to do with Zulu. That has to do with ensuring that all our assets are nicely packaged for purposes of wiping off this so-called inequality which is out there, which is perpetual and vicious.
Yes.
As well as wiping off this unemployment that we see in the areas of Amakos. And everybody's just flocking to cities till this day to try and look for greener pastures. And yet the rural areas where Amakosi reign, there is so much potential. But the packaging part, which is again the point you are making, of having a structured approach and a legislative framework of some sort that is only for Amakosi, because nobody stops them from being innovative and being creative and coming up with how they can uplift their communities. It's just all in their hands. But if it's chaotic and there's no order, those that want to take advantage, they easily take advantage.
Is that the reason why we are seeing this mushrooming of so-called forums, because now there's no legislative framework. So you have forums trying to get a piece of the pie, because, so if you could just speak on the question of business forums that have now become, such a problem and a challenge and a nuisance, certainly in the KZN province.
Definitely, they've become a big challenge in the KZN province. But again, you must always go back to basics in terms of why are these forums coming up the way they are. Probably some studies that have been made about them, but my understanding from where these forums come from, they want to take advantage of the 30% set aside allocation, which is part of legislation. And then as they came up, because you see, we've had a lot of problems even with our BEE, triple BEE, and all transformation-based framework, where there's been fronting and the abuse of the system for the longest time.
Yes.
And it's not like people don't see that. I mean, you and I know the chaos that we have in this country at the moment. We've got Mkwanazi now testifying as we speak, and which many of us support him for standing up to the powers that be and to corruption, to ensure that we help cleanse our country.
Yes,
but back to this issue that you're talking about, these forums are as a result of such, right? And obviously people will then start thriving and abusing that and making sure that they let people pay and all the nonsense, which is part of what we need to get rid of, right? But when you see these forums coming up, it's all as a result of an environment that is, in my view, not properly coordinated and is not really benefiting all people as they should, because every one of us needs to have a stake in this country. This is our country. You can't have a jaundiced view and skewed, structuring of the economy, only favoring, because we know our economy is still largely white, right? And we know that they study that I think one of the newspapers would be giving every year, which talks about out of the races and demographics in South Africa, who takes home more. It will be your white people, it will be your Indian, which forms 3% and 8% and 3% of the population, and then it would be your coloreds, and then it will be your Africans. We are always trailing, right? So now when you talk about these things, we need to be honest and have the revolution of consciousness of honesty about it and say, how do we change this? Because if it does not change, I'm sorry, something is gonna happen down the road, because we're just kicking down the can and kicking down the risk. Your children, I mean, this day and age, one wasn't expecting that you'll still be having children marching on the streets throwing stones, like we used to do in the 80s, 90s, before democracy. Democracy.
Yes.
So, but what you see now, it's like the can is being kicked down the road. And the children are now, the 2000s are now doing what we used to do then. And their children, they will continue to do this.
In the context of the so-called GNU, now that, you're seeing the ascendance of the Democratic Alliance, we all know what they represent. Do you think that what you've just explained to us, are we still going to, kick the can down the road? Or maybe this DA is bringing something good.
You want me to get into politics now, sir?
No, I just, as a comment.
A
comment, because, we are in the political, it's a political economy space.
Correct, yes.
Whether you like it or not, if you are in business, politics has an impact on what you do.
Very true.
So you then bound to have an opinion on that.
No, you're very correct. Actually, it is the fact that politics is controlled by economy, right?
Yes.
Not the other way around.
Yeah, true.
Right.
Yes.
We've seen it in South Africa. 31 years is long enough a time for us to have experimented with this and seen what the interplay between politics and economy as to what it does exactly. I mean, this is true. It's known out there that one key leader of the DA at some point threatened, it must have been Madam Zila, that we're going to deal with this economy if certain things don't happen. So that
We will crash the rand.
Yeah, we'll crash the
We'll
rand.
pull out of the GNU and the rand.
The rand is going to crash.
Yes.
Now, if a person talks like that, that person talks like that because she knows that who is backing her, right? And she knows that whoever is backing her is powerful enough to make sure that if you don't do what they are asking you to do, you'll be in trouble. So, unfortunately, we are in that situation currently in South Africa, where sadly, I always say there's raw corruption and there's a corruption of co-option, where you are co-opted as a political figure into the economic system, then you become a gatekeeper. And while
it's currently co-opted.
Yeah, whereas before you were fighting for the people, but now you are co-opted here. So you will now start fighting for the people because you are protecting and preserving the status quo and protecting your own interest. We are in the era of the corruption of co-option, where this thing has been so intermingled. And the system has managed to make sure that, once you are intermingled like this, you're going to start fighting with But now, ufuna ukushaya loya ongemuva kaShenge, but you can't shaya lo.
Yes.
Uzoqala kuShenge kuqala. uShenge uzobe seyasuka alwe. Yeah, lo ngemuva is now safe.
Yes.
You see, we've got a situation like that in South Africa. Really, I think it's a turning point for our country. I think there is a lot of things that are going to happen. And I'm unlike some people who believe that people are going to take us back to apartheid. There's no apartheid that's coming. No. We are except in the coloniality space terms, where you've got the existing infrastructure that keeps perpetuating apartheid in terms of economy.
Yes.
That one is real. It's going to continue. But to have a situation like we had before, it's not going to happen. But that's where we need to have people that are going to be perceptive and look through the system and understand how do we bring in a whole lot of these people who are left on the fringes of economy. And that's what you and I are talking about here.
Yeah. Now, the question of the sovereign wealth fund, is it maybe one of the solutions as we are gravitating towards at the end of this interview? Do you think, for instance, that a sovereign wealth fund that is provincially based is one of the solutions to tackle issues of deep inequalities and poverty in the KZN province? Mainly for one, the people of KZN, but number two, Amakos as well as Indlungulu in its totality.
I think more for Amakosi than for the province, because politically we are a unitary state.
Yes.
Right. So there are certain things that we can have and certain things that we can't have, that need to be approved at the central level of government. But from the Amakosi's point of view, nothing stops them from creating some form of sovereign wealth fund that will ensure that they take care of their own people. I mean, you can work within this system so well because the system allows for us to be creative. Again, I may not want to mention this, but look at Orania and all the other little Oranias happening in our country. As much as I'm totally against that, but it is Afrikaners, not all of them, a group of certain Afrikaners who feel that they need to assert themselves and have their own identity and move with it.
And they've built universities.
They've built universities. And you look at how small that space is, right? But how much they have achieved, right? So, and we still keep crying foul about apartheid and all of that. Not that we don't have to mention it, because history is a constant dialogue between the past and the present. So as to make sense of the future, we always have to have that reference, but not go back to it every time we fail and we want to sort of like conscientize people when the resources are at our disposal. Right? I'm saying this understanding fully well the challenges that African people face in South Africa at the moment when it comes to money, which is very crucial as part of the means of production. But for me, that sovereign wealth fund would be very crucial to uplift the AmaZulu, KwaZulu, as a sizwe, njengoba sikhuluma during this month, right, of cultural heritage.
Yes.
So that we really can have our pride. It doesn't help us to be only culturally proud because of the artifacts and nemgidi yethu emihle esiyithandayo.
Yes.
Kodwa manje uma sithi hlangana Zulu, kahlangana Zulu emnothweni.
Emnothweni.
Uyangithola? As amabhinqa beze bonke amaZulu akithi asemateksini namaZulu akithi agcwele ngithiwa hlangana Zulu, not because we want to exclude other people, but it's a fact of life. You know, somewhere in the Bible, even in heaven, the Bible says the tribes shall stand before the throne. You know, meaning different people and races. But we ourselves, we must hlangana. Emnothweni. But we need something to hlanganisa us. Emnothweni.
That's all. No goes. Thank you very much. I think that's a good note to end it.
Thank you.
You know, so to say that hlangana Zulu, but manje kuthiwa hlangana Zulu kephi emnothweni.
Yes.
You know, so that's all the discussion we've had for you, and thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
And that's the end of our discussion today. Ladies and gentlemen, we end it with the note to say hlangana Zulu, but uZulu akahlanganephi emnothweni. And then one of the solutions that Nonkosi spoke about today is a sovereign wealth fund for the Zulu nation that is going to be spearheaded by Amakhosi. So thank you very much. Don't forget to subscribe. We are on LinkedIn. We are also on YouTube. We are also on X, Instagram, as well as TikTok. We are available on all of those platforms and channels. Thank you very much until we meet the next time. Bye-bye.